Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl Sawatsky, and on behalf of CTC Train Canada, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on Adobe InDesign. And if you're here today, well, obviously it's because you recognize Adobe InDesign as one of the premier desktop publishing tools that's available to you. And one of the beautiful features is that with Creative Cloud, well, you have access to all the new features as soon as they're released. But that can be overwhelming at times sometimes. Which of these new features do you really need? Which are the essential ones? Well, today we're going to cover 5 of these, 5 essential new features that will really help you out in your day-to-day work. And with us, we have one of our senior Adobe instructors, Bert Schopf. Bert has over 20 years experience teaching Adobe software products. And if we combine that experience with his keen eye for design, his great presentation skills, well, you're in for a very valuable webinar this afternoon. One final note before I pass the word over to Bert is we certainly do welcome questions throughout the sessions. So simply input those into the chat box, and I'll be happy to bring them to Bert's attention at appropriate times throughout the session, and he'll be more than happy to answer those. So again, thank you everyone for joining us, and without further ado, Bert, I'll pass the word over to you. We're looking forward to learning some of these new InDesign features.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carl. So let me just bring up the display that we have. Welcome to today's webinar, folks, and we're going to be looking at InDesign CC and some of the latest features that are in there. And for any of you who've used, who are in graphic design, you know that years and years ago you may have been using PageMaker to lay out your files. Maybe after that you'd use Ventura Publisher on the PC side, and that was a great leap forward. And then along came Quark Express, which had really fantastic features, all in a really pretty bulletproof casing. But all of those have kind of fallen aside once Adobe introduced InDesign into the mix, and there's a lot of nice things that they've incorporated for people doing layouts, desktop publishing, that kind of thing.
Bert, I think we may have lost your audio, so if you can just double check your connection.
That's good. Thank you. Let's continue, folks. Sorry about the technical difficulties. All right. So, anyways. InDesign came along from Adobe, and that was a welcome relief to a lot of people who did document design. Not only was it easy to use, it had a lot of advanced features and all the best of all the previous page layout softwares that everybody was using. And it's been around the block for a few years now, and they continually make improvements to it, and that's what we're going to cover today. First off, I want to talk a little bit about the layout of the interface that you're seeing in front of you. One of the things that we're seeing in here is the interface is very dark. And right now, the interface may be dark, but you can change that. That's part of the options that we've got in front of us. If you go to the Edit pull-down menu under Preferences, you can go to Interface Changes. And this is it's a small item, but it's new because not everybody wants a darker interface. If you'd like, you can get a lighter colored gray as a background, even lighter than that, or you can go pure white. So it all depends on what you want as a color for your background. I'm going to go with a medium light. That's pretty nice. It's a fairly neutral gray. And there's also an option to match the pasteboard to the theme color. So you can see the interface, that is all the menus that you see on here are a nice light gray, and the pasteboard is that light gray as well. Now if you unclick the Match Pasteboard to Theme Color button, it just stays a nice white. And maybe that's not a bad thing. So you can experiment with whatever looks good to you, whether you like the high contrast of the dark background, or medium color, medium light, or white. And of course, you can change the pasteboard, have that match your background color or not. It's up to you. So I'm going to just make this little change, and just so you can see, I've chosen the darker gray background color, and I've unclicked Match Pasteboard to Theme Color, so it remains a nice paper white. While we're in this neighborhood, I wanted to show you a couple of other things. one of the things that you're going to see with this version of InDesign, and that's InDesign CC, is they keep on giving you more specific options for different features. So for the interface, this is pretty nice. They also give you options, for instance, under the General tab when you're setting your preferences on how you want to start your document showing. Typically, we say start to show the Start workspace when no documents are open, show Recent Files workspace when also in there, and if you don't like the newfangled things, you can use the Legacy New Document dialog box. What are we talking about? Well, let's have a look. If we were to go File, New, File, New Document, what are our options? Well, this is the new file opening options. So here, it's not what we had before. We actually have the option to look at recent files. You can look at your previously saved files, print templates, web templates, mobile templates, all to give you a place to begin with if you're starting a new document. And that's pretty nice. I'm just going to close that because we don't need to make a new document at this point. And I'm going to go back to where we had the preferences settings under General. And instead, I'm going to choose to use the Legacy New Document dialog box. And so this time, when I choose to make a new document, you see this is the Legacy. For those of you who have used InDesign before, it's very simple. You don't have to make as many choices. You tell it what size paper you want, how many pages, facing pages or not, and some of these other good things when you're starting a document. So if you're used to the old way and you're reluctant to change, you can keep this. All right, let's switch that back because I'm going to need the interface for recent files and on the Start menu to show that when we open it as well. So I'm just going to close the current document I have open, not saving any changes. And you can see that one of the things that they've changed is all the documents you worked on recently show when you open InDesign. So here, these are the last handful of documents that I've worked on in InDesign on my computer, and they're currently showing. So that makes it visually easy to just see them and click on one of them here. Now, if you decide to create a new one, I will click on the New button here. It's just like going to the File, New dialog box. And I'm going to expand the dialog box a little bit just so we can see everything a little bit more. So now, when we say, okay, we want to start a new document, the most recent ones you have are probably the similar sizes that you go with. A letter size, 8.5 by 11. I did a custom 8.5 by 11, a couple of them in there. Custom one that was 4.7244 inches square. I believe that was a CD case. And other templates that are currently open. So essentially, when you want to start a new job, you can base it on one that you've created already or one that you've worked on recently. Now, if you've got some saved templates that you've downloaded, and I'm going to be showing you those to you in a minute, you can start with one of those. Now, my current option that I usually choose is I'm going to go and look at the media that I'm working with for this particular job. If it's a print job, I will look at all the different sizes are available, letter, legal, tabloid, half letter. If you click this button here, you can view all of the presets. So you can go to the other metric sizes, B5, A5, A4, et cetera, US business card, compact disc size, postcard. So whatever type of job you want, you just choose the that's going to be printed. You can start the job with that. Below that, the sample sizes are some actual templates that you can open up a job with. Now these are nice because they give you placeholders in to start your springboard your job in terms of the design and things like that. So let's say we're going to do a charming menu layout. Well, in the dialog box here, if you can have a look at it, if it sounds intriguing to you, look at the menu on the right-hand side, the template details. It's called a charming menu layout. And if you click the See Preview button, you'll be able to have a look at it and say, oh, okay, well, this is what it's going to look like. It's got some, it's apparently a 3-panel brochure with ruling lines that go all through and some interesting ways to make your menu look. So if you like the look of what you see, you can simply click the download button and it will download. Now you notice that this one, it's 1.4 megs and it is free. Not all of them are free. Some you'll have to pay for, and some might be worth paying for. Now, once you've downloaded it, which only took a few minutes, you can click the Open button to actually open your new job as a template. And, of course, we may be missing fonts, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. Just so everybody knows when you open a job up, you can click the Find Font buttons if you get this dialog box. And you can simply take the fonts that you don't currently have and you can replace them. For instance, we have Mil Gaudi. Well, we don't really have that one on my system, so I'm going to replace it with, I think I have Gaudi on here, another version. No. Oh, I got Gilson. Oh, there's Gaudi Old Style. Yeah, here, we'll use that. And we will change all of those. OpenType, I think I'll just replace it with Arial. Why not? That's a very quick and easy one. I'll try and make this quick for you folks. So we're going to change all of those. And this one we're going to change with Arial Bold. Change all. So if you ever inherit a job from someone or you're opening a template, feel free to choose fonts that you want or that you currently have on your system for the ones that are missing. The ones that are missing aren't really going to work for you. Roboto, I'm not sure what that is. I'll try Berlin Sans for it. And Trajan Color Concept, I do believe I have Trajan on here, so I'll do the swap with that. And there it is. So I'm going to change all, and then we're done. So here's our revised brochure, and this was built from a template. If you have other graphics you want to put in, you can put them in place of the ones that you see here. And if we look at the job, we had one side and a second side, a third side, and a fourth side to the brochure. So this would be, I'm assuming, 2 separate brochures or a 4-page brochure. So there's alternate pages available too, maybe breakfast and a lunch menu. So in any case, the templates all work, and they're a nice way to start the job. You'll notice that this, looking at the title bar for this job, it remains untitled. Because we opened it from a template, we will have to just simply save this job. So I'll go to Save As, and we'll save it as a normal InDesign file. I'll call it as Menu, for lack of more creative name. So let's just close that. And so anytime we go to the New button, we can choose to open from recent choices, from saved choices. I tried it with the Print menu. If we wanted to open a web style file, we could open up templates for that, and files for your mobile as well. So different templates are available. Each one of them has options, and you can still, as always, customize whatever page size you want to devise. And everything that is appropriate for the media is set up here as a concern. For instance, in print, we may want to do facing pages. We might want to do a primary text frame. And that's more for a long document. For a short document, not so much. You can set, of course, columns for your page, margins, your bleeds, all that good stuff. And that's for print. In web, you're more concerned with measuring your pages rather than in inches by a width and a height in terms of pixels. You can set orientation for your pages and columns, margins, that kind of thing. Same with the mobile. So they have some significant improvements to the templates that are available in InDesign. And once you've downloaded them, they're yours to use and reuse at any time. I'm just going to close that menu and move on to the next topic. So yes, we do have some nice quick start template options when you're making new documents, and many of them you can just work with what's there, and of course change all of the features to work with you. Now, one of the things I do like in terms of the interface is all the recent documents open are showing. So earlier, 5 hours ago, I opened this document, and simply by clicking on it, I can bring it open again. It's just a single page. It's lyrics from a song that I happen to like, and here we are. So why are we looking at song lyrics? It's pretty boring, but I want to show you some of the things that are new in Adobe InDesign that I think you're going to like. Now, fonts themselves have developed over time as well. Adobe was one of the first companies to come out with really high-quality font sets. Those are the Type 1 fonts back in the day. Those were eventually supplanted by TrueType fonts, which became ubiquitous everywhere for people on their computers. And then more recently, we have a different type of font available. Some of the fonts available are OpenType fonts. And if you look at your font selector, you can see all the fonts here that have this funny looking O in the listing are OpenType fonts. Now, not all OpenType fonts have variable characters, but some do. So for instance, the way to activate it, if you're using one of the fonts that do, highlight your character, and then you can see one character at a time, your variations on the fonts. This is the one we're seeing now. There's one that puts it sideways, one kind of italic. One puts it in a black box. That looked interesting. So we'll do that to do it like this. And then we'll pick the E in Ed, and we'll choose the variation to do it like this. Hey, these are kind of interesting. This particular font is Kozuka Mincho Pro. And it's just one of the many fonts that you can find that you have additional character options for. Not all fonts are going to have these kind of extensions on them that give you alternative characters. But particularly if you find character sets that say they contain swash characters or alternate character sets, those are good ones to do this kind of thing in. And it's still the same character set, but there are just alternate characters to the font that you can access right on your screen. Not all fonts, however, have those options. Let me zoom in on some of the text for you. And one of the things in here, if we go here, well, that V didn't really have much of an option. There was just a slightly different V that was there. Not really a huge difference for us. Letters P, well, there's a capital, like a small caps P. So not every font is going to have really interesting alternative characters, but that is a pretty good character to, a pretty good thing to experiment with now that you know how to do it. Simply go and, with your type tool, highlight the character. Oh, and this one, this S, it has regular S, a superscript S, and apparently a weird F. But that is apparently how sometimes the S character appears. Okay, so you can experiment depending on what font you've chosen, and if there's alternative characters available for them. Some of them, like I say, have pretty dramatic extra characters. Now, that being said, I think one of the things that everybody who has been working in InDesign that deals with other languages and symbol fonts and things like that, that everybody likes the Glyph panel, because that keeps you from having to look up ASCII code combinations to get alternative characters other than the alphanumerics that we have on our keyboard. So what we're going to do is find the Glyphs panel, and I'm looking here, and I don't have them. So if you ever have a panel in InDesign that you want to use, but you don't see it on your panel list, don't worry. Just go back to the Window pull-down menu, and I don't see Glyphs. These are all in alphabetical order, but of course I don't see them because it's a sub-menu under Type and Tables. There it is, hidden, and there is Glyphs. And there's our Glyphs panel. Now, before I start using the Glyphs panel, I want to mention something too. If you want to pick up your panels, and this is pretty common, and I think most people know this for InDesign, but you can resize your panels as you wish once they've been liberated from the panels on the side here. And just grab, usually I find if you grab the bottom right corner, it's very easy to resize the Glyph panel. One of the other things that's interesting that they've done with the Glyph panel now is you can basically see more characters or less characters in one viewing in the Glyphs panel. So it all depends on how high-res your monitor is or how much you want to squint. But you can go through all of your characters, and then you can just see them larger or smaller depending on how you want to choose your characters. Now, what's interesting is whatever font you're in, I'm going to go right here in the word lover, and if I look at this font, it is the Minion Pro font, and the glyph panel will always match initially the font that you have your cursor buried in. So if you look at all the characters that are available here under Minion Pro, we can look through the panel and we can see, okay, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these, the regular ones, and then we've got some of our ligatures in here, the FFs. A ligature is when you take two characters and blend them together into one. And here's some of our alternate characters. You can see the N in this font has a few variations, an N with an extra hook on it, superscript, small cap versions. All very interesting, but we have no symbols. It's all about the character set for Minion Pro, and that suits me just fine. However, what if I wanted to get something that didn't look or switch fonts in midstream? No problem. Let's switch to, going through my font collection on here, and let's switch to Wingdings 2. Let me see, here they are. Wingdings 2. Now, when you look at Wingdings 2, this is the font set for it, and it matches the other font sets, but it has a bunch of different fonts in here. And I'm looking for different symbols and not quite finding the one I'm looking for. I'm going to try one more. I'm going to go to, rather than Wingdings, let's try the symbol font. And I'm pretty sure I will find what I want there. Yes, as a matter of fact, I was looking for the heart symbol. Now, in order to take your glyphs and put them in the document, you would simply double click, and it takes whatever character you have on your glyphs panel, and it puts it in your type. So there it is, lover with an O, a heart instead of the O. Isn't that sweet? But you can take pretty much and add any character from any font that you want to in your document. So, for instance, me and my friend are at the table doing shots. I'll just put a space, and let's say I want to, in the same font, Minion Pro, put another character. And what character can we put in here? Let's well, let's put an FF. Who knows? There, we put it in, and doing shots off. Now you see the FF is a nice ligature now, so that shows me that I've got the two characters have automatically been blended into one. So this is one of the fonts where you've got ligatures that are available too. I'd like to show you one more thing that I think is really neat. Lately, with the OpenType fonts, they're kind of a new thing. They've broken the character limit of 256 characters per font set. So you can show the entire font. If you look at the top of your Glyphs menu, you can say, well, I just want to see basic Latin and Latin 1. So basically that means you want to see the characters on your keyboards plus the extended character set, what used to be just on our regular character sets. If you only want to see punctuation, you can filter out this. Only Greek symbols, you can filter those out. So this is really interesting. If you only want to see ornaments, oh, look at those. So no matter what font you're in, you can filter out which of the characters you want to see at the top of the menu right here. And here I'm going to go back to entire font because I like to see the whole thing. So those are some of the wonderful things that they've improved with the Glyph menu. But I want to show you one more thing that is really kind of neat that is in here as well. You see where we've got 7/12ths? So that's a fraction, right? And there are a few glyphs for standard fractions, a half, a quarter, a third perhaps, but not all fractions are even like that. Here's 7/12ths. Now, without any big fuss, if I highlight that fraction, just like we did before to get the alternative characters, it will automatically create a proper fraction number. And that is really handy. So in whatever you're doing, and I'll just put another one here. So let's say we want 33 out of 100. All right, and if we want to represent that as a proper typographic fraction, click on it. Just click on it, the text, and you'll see you have the alternate type. And there we go. So that is a pretty good solution for creating fractions from any number without having to go into special ASCII bits. As always, and just as a recap for some people, if you want to, you can click this little button to collapse the glyph menu to an icon. And if you can see the little horizontal bar that is here, if I wanted to take my glyphs and I wanted to put them in a grouping perhaps with the paragraph features, I'm going to hold the mouse button down and let it fall in with the paragraphs and the glyphs, and now they're combined. So you see when I go to paragraphs, the glyphs are just an extension, or they're grouped together in that. So pretty easy to get that to sit back into your panel group when you want to use it. So that's some things I like about ligatures and some of the improvements they've made with typography on the screen in Adobe InDesign. Next, I want to show you something else. Let's just close this one because I'm tired of looking at it. We'll just click the new button like we've learned before. And let's say I wanted to do a CD cover. So we'll go with that custom page size and simply hit create. There's our CD cover. So one of the other nice little improvements that we have in here is what you can do, and this might seem minor, but for those people who use it, you're going to like it a lot. When we go to the line tool, so people draw a line, yeah, it's not too exciting. When you draw a line, you know that when you hold down your shift key, as you're drawing it, it keeps it perfectly straight or perfectly vertical. Like right now, it's not quite vertical, right? If as you're drawing it, hold down your shift key, it'll constrain it to being straight up and down, which is pretty good. Now, let's go to the real topic that I want to show you about. Let's take this line I've drawn right here, and I want to beef it up just so you can see it a little bit better, and so we'll make it 6 points. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So here's my line, and I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the improvements they made in the stroke features. So I'm going to open the strokes panel to look at the changes in here. So we can see our line is 6 points thick. And I want to, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it'll just take a second, but I'd like to discuss a little bit with what's this thing with the cap? Well, in order to show you properly, I'm going to go to the direct selection tool to select this line. Why? Is this line is really just a vector from this point on the left to this point on the right. And we've given that vector a thickness. Now you can see it's straight ahead. This is called a butt cap. At the end of the points is where the line ends. Now, if we choose to give it a round cap instead, you see it goes beyond the end vector point of the line, and it takes the thickness of the line on one side and extends that around as a radius. And the same thing if you choose the projecting cap, it just does the same thing except squares it off. Let's go back to the regular cap because that's what we wanted to do. Now, also, for those of you who haven't realized, with lines, we can do them certainly as a solid line, and of course, we can do a mixed line too. It's still the same vector line, except we're expressing it as two thick lines with a gap in the middle. What's interesting, though, and I like this, is we can actually colorize the gap. And not only for a color that we have in our menus, but also we can tint it. So we can make those lines quite special for us. But the real point that I wanted to show you with all of this is to say that not only can we do all these wonderful things with our line segments or our strokes, but particularly for our line tools, we can apply a start or ending heading. So for instance, on one end, the start end, I'm going to choose a square. And on the other end, I'm going to choose a triangular arrowhead. So essentially what's happened here is these are some of the default arrowheads and feet that you can apply to your line. Now, that's not going to really work for a two-dimensional object like a circle or a rectangle. It would be a little bit silly to actually put arrowheads on it. But if you have a stroke line or you have a straight line, it certainly makes sense to. The new thing that's going on here is if you look at the sample I drew, the weight of my line is 6 points. As I make the weight of my line thicker, the arrowheads and feet become thicker as well. I'm going to go back to 6 points for my line because I like the concept of a 6-point line for this exercise. But my problem is the default size for my arrow foot, that is the square here, and the arrowhead, which is a triangle, the sizing's not quite right. So one of the new feature I wanted to show you is we can scale the size of the arrowheads in relation to the thickness of the line, because as you saw before, when we increase the thickness of the line, the thickness of the size of the arrowhead and feet increase proportionately. So if we go to 50%, you can see that this box end of the arrow went down significantly in size. And if I wanted to, I could take the arrowhead and make it maybe 150% of the size, and you see it's automatically become bigger. Now, these numbers or percentages that we put in here remain consistent if we increase the relative thickness of our line. They still will go at those rates. And I think that's a wonderful way of adding functionality and being able to draw some much more interesting lines in Adobe InDesign. If you were to draw, for instance, a polygon and go and apply the same features to it, well, it wouldn't, if we put let's try an arrowhead on here and a circle on there, it really doesn't work because it's a closed object. So that will not take the arrowheads, but certainly the same stroke menu can be used on any of your two-dimensional shapes, kind of like that. So you can do things by, changing the line style and a whole bunch of other features. There we go. Anyways, that is one of the other new features that it's a small little improvement, but it's a nice one to have to the stroke menu in terms of being able to modify the arrowheads on your line. Now, the next feature that I'd like to show you, and I'm going to just kind of nicely segue from this one into another one, is you can see we've got our very interesting line here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the big changes that happened when Adobe InDesign went to the CC version. They put a lot more emphasis on the online presence. For instance, under CC libraries, you have different libraries that are available. Now, a library is a library that opens up at any point that you want working on a document. And all right, so let me just get rid of this. There we go. All right, back where we were. We're talking about CC libraries. So the libraries are portable. That is, they stay with your installation of InDesign. You can take objects that you currently or that you use a lot, and you can add them to your library to pretty much drag and drop to any job you want. So for instance, we can take this funky arrow that we've designed, and we can drop it into our CC library, and it comes in as a piece of artwork. Now, by default name, it'll just call it Artwork 1, but I'll just rename it Arrow, Yellow, Black. So that might be something that you use regularly in all your jobs, and you can simply drag and drop that into any job. Let me demonstrate something else that's nice about the CC libraries to you. These libraries, you can make different libraries, and you can move items from one job into another. Now, here's line 1 and line 2. So we've got 2 lines to deal with. If I grab line 1 here, one of the things is I can import a paragraph style from a totally different document. If we look at the existing paragraph styles in this document, and just let me separate that menu, we've only got one, and it's all called Basic Paragraph. But I can import from the CC library a paragraph style that I had from a completely different project. And I can go into this one, and I can import what we call body text. So here, because we were able to establish a CC library, I'm able to add paragraph styles, you're able to add character styles, and you can add graphics completely with special effects and everything. You can add patterns, you can add brush strokes, you can add color themes, individual colors. You can do all of these things and add them to any particular job you want. And you can take them from your documents and put them into your CC library. For instance, on this particular job, let's show you how to bring a color in here. So if we go to our swatches, for instance, on here, let's go and open up our swatch palettes, and that would be under color, swatches, cleverly hidden. So we've got two basic colors in here, and we can apply that color to perhaps to our type that we have in here. So there, I'll make this line blue, and I'll make this line pink. Now, that's great. We've got some swatches in here, but perhaps our corporate colors are glow green and this particular RGB color. So if we take this color here, we can simply, by clicking on it from the CC library, add it to our menus. It's that simple. And now we've got the, in this new document we've created, we have the ability to add the glow green and the RGB color in here just as well. So your libraries are great for moving one particular aspect of a job to another, whether it be a color from your swatch list, a color theme that you've developed, paragraph styles, character styles, individual graphics. One thing I find a lot of people do is they create a newsletter library and they put their company's logos. You may have one central logo you use or variations on your logo that have been permitted. All of those would show up under graphics, and you can essentially drag and drop from here into any particular job and try them out on your own. Now, everything that we've been working on so far has been part of one library. Now, you can go to different libraries. I've got a stock templates, so some of the templates that you can open up will be found in a library. I've got my library, which has a color and it has a piece of artwork in it, and a second my library, which has just a bunch of different Pantone colors in here. Anytime you want to, you can create a new library for yourself or a different job. So you can essentially create a name. I will do one for Bert. So I'll create a brand new library, and then everything that you can put in here is an asset, and you can simply drag and drop it in there. So for instance, if I've got a paragraph style called Head 1, I can take this paragraph heading and add it in here. If you notice, there's a plus button in here, so I'm going to choose Head 1, add it, and I'm going to add the paragraph style. There it is. So there's a paragraph style that was called Head 1. I've added it to my list. If I wanted to take the colors from here and add them to my list, you can take any of these colors. I'm going to take the glow green from here, and again, you'll notice that on the libraries list, I can click the plus sign, and I'm going to add the stroke color. So or the object color. So you can add swatches and paragraph styles, and of course, any graphics you want or groups of graphics you want, you can add them to this as well. I'll show you what I mean. Let me just open up another different file. Let's go here. So here's a job that has a lot of graphics in them and logos and all kinds of fun things. So let me just take one of these graphics. This is a vector graphic, and I'm just going to drop it in here as artwork and rename it Adobe logo. And if I wanted to go back to my previous job, I can see my library still open, and the Arai logo I picked up from the other one, I can drag and just simply drop into my layout here. So this is a really handy feature that lets you basically transfer any asset from whatever file you're working on to a completely different file. And you don't have to open up the other document and copy and paste, because your CC library will be open for you all the time, and it's just a matter of switching to any particular library you want to go to. Incidentally, there are buttons here, so we can show your items as icons. You can show them as a list. And of course, as with any of the panels, if you click the button in the top right, usually you will be able to look at all the options. So for instance, my current object that I've chosen was the BERT folder. I can delete that entire library. I can rename it. I can share the link with other people. I can sort by date, name, view on a website, view deleted, and so on and so forth. But that's one of the latest things that they've been developing with the this version of InDesign CC. I'm just going to close the untitled file. We don't need to save anything from there. And let's see now. Yes, I think that that covers the topics that we were looking at. I'm going to take a second and let's turn it over perhaps to Carl and see if we have any questions.
Hey, thank you very much for that, Bert. So yeah, no questions have come in so far. So a reminder, folks, if you have a question, now is your opportunity. You can simply type that into the chat box, and Bert would be happy to address that for you. Maybe I'll ask you, Bert, at the same time, if you can just flip the presenter role back to me, and I'll just have one concluding slide.
Happy to do that, Carl.
Good. And again, we'd like to thank everybody for their patience throughout those technical difficulties. And always, Bert was quick on his feet and got that fixed, so we thank you for that. So I'll just share with you folks one final slide just to let you know of some of the upcoming webinars that we have. In a few weeks' time, we have one on Microsoft Outlook and how you can leverage some of the features of it to better manage your time. And you can see the title there. I'll also put the URL in the chat box. And if you've enjoyed this one, well, Bert has another Adobe webinar coming up on November 1st dealing with Photoshop. So again, we all like to take pictures, but they're not always as nice as we like. So Bert is going to show us how we can use Photoshop to dress those up and make them look professional. So I'm sure you'd like to join us for that. I think we did have a question here. Okay, yeah, there was one question, Bert, on is there a library of images on hand?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I can show you if I can, Carl, if you can just pass the control back to my computer.
There you go. Yeah, that'd be
right.
great if you could show us that.
Good. Here, let me just share my screen and go back to here. Okay. For the library, that's a great question actually, and one that I perhaps didn't address. You'll notice there's a search window in here. You get to search online, and this will go to Adobe's, I'm assuming the Adobe collection of images and things. So, Carl, I'm going to ask you to give me a topic, any topic in the world, a thing or a concept.
Okay, well, I was just working on a web page on Java programming, and I was just a few minutes ago looking for a nice icon of the Java programming language.
Java icon. Now I type it in, and it's searching through the Adobe Stock menu as we speak, and you can see it came up with a few options. It's got this one with the coffee. It's got a Java. It looks rather Adobe-like icon. JavaScript and some other Java features. So looking through this, you might find what you're looking for. And this basically does a nice little search and lets you look through different icons that you can use. Now, if one of them suits your fancy, perhaps this one here, you can click on it. You can save the preview. I'm going to click Save the Preview to Bert. And you can see that you have this graphic now, Java name extension, and I can simply just drop it onto my page. Let me just move that up here so you can actually see. Ooh, it's rather large. So I'm just going to bring it down. But there's the Java logo. So yes, to answer your question, you can do a photo search, if you will, by going here. Now, there's different ways you can search. It automatically went to Adobe Stock, which is incidentally another thing that they're pushing for their online. They want people to use their stock libraries, and they've really, really put a lot of work into them. You could say your current library, or you could just say all libraries that are available when you do your search criteria. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, Bert. And there's no issues using those images in your work as far as attribution, like the rights of them and attribution of that?
No, but there are some that you have to pay for. So not everything is royalty free, and you just have to be careful of the ones that you download. Perhaps they expand the range to go to third party as well. But let's try birthday. Oh, okay. So with birthday, sorry, I was just searching in all libraries, but if I go to Adobe Stock, we've got lots of them. So there we go. Now when I went here, you'll notice it says license and save to Bert. So what it's doing when I click the button, and this is one of the ones that you have to watch for, it says you have 0 license, and then your option is to purchase that picture on Adobe Stock. And if you were to press OK, we would go to the Adobe Stock website. You would see your picture that you love and you want to use in your document, but it would require you to pay for it. So you can do that through your Adobe account. But I'm just going to hit cancel because I just wanted to show you how that works.
Okay.
So, Carl, I'm going to
that's great. Thank you.
Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Deb, for that question. That was appreciated. So, yep. So just one last item I'll leave you with. As you can see on my slide there, I think I gave you folks the URLs to our upcoming webinars. You can see those in the chat box. Go ahead and click and sign up for Bert's Photoshop webinar November 1st. Just one side note as well. You may have heard this news. Last month, we were acquired by Global Knowledge. And so what does this mean for you? Well, it doesn't mean a lot. Actually, you'll still have access to the same great service courses with instructors like Bert, especially if you're used to coming to us for Adobe training, desktop training. That'll still be there, same place, same courses. It does mean an increased catalog of IT and management skills curriculum courses, though, given we'll be able to leverage what Global Knowledge has to offer there. So it will only mean no change in the service we offer you up till now, but more course selection to choose from.
That's right. Carl, if I can add just a comment to that. In addition to transitioning to Global Knowledge, one of the good things is that the Train Canada's concept training is going to carry on forward. And if you tune into the Photoshop session where you take bad pictures and turn them into better ones, November 1st, you're going to see exactly some of that, because pretty much everything I'm going to be showing you is kind of touched on in the manuals, but not in a way that are practically usable in terms of, well, here I took a bunch of photos over the weekend and I want to put them on Facebook, or I want to use them in the company newsletter, but they're technically poor, they're poor contrast and stuff. So we're going to show you some really interesting things, and that's all based on the concept training that we at CTC and now Global Knowledge continue to offer. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, really modified to suit the audience's requirements, what you actually need to do your work. Good. Well, thank you for that, Bert. So go ahead and sign up for that Photoshop webinar November 1st. We'll be looking forward to seeing, hopefully we'll see most of you there, if not on an upcoming Adobe course in the near future. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. We hope to see you soon in an upcoming webinar or an upcoming course. Have a good rest of the day.